We'd been married for 10 years. A full decade of birthdays, parent-teacher meetings, Sunday grocery runs, and sleepy movie nights on the couch. We weren't flashy or overly romantic, but I thought we were solid. I honestly believed that. We've got 2 kids. I work long hours in IT, sometimes remote, sometimes in the office, and she used to work part-time at a local interior design studio. Lately, though, she's been consulting from home. I didn't think much of it. I wanted to trust her. I did trust her, but little cracks started forming. Subtle at first. She began keeping her phone face down, said it was just a habit, started dressing up more often, even on days she never used to care. I remember asking once, jokingly, "Hot date with the Home Depot lighting section today?" She laughed, but it felt rehearsed, polished. There was this one night we were in bed, and she suddenly sat up, grabbed her phone and said she forgot to send an email. It was nearly midnight. I pretended to be half asleep, but I heard the way she whispered into the phone in the hallway. Soft, careful, like someone else was sleeping. That night gnawed at me. Still, I pushed it down. Told myself I was being paranoid. That maybe I was just tired, or insecure, or imagining things. I didn't want to be that guy snooping, doubting, obsessing. But something shifted in how she looked at me. Like she was always a few steps ahead in a conversation I wasn't even invited to. And then came the locked folder on her phone. I saw her open it once with Face ID and swipe quickly through photos. She caught me looking and snapped, "It's just mood boards for a project." Mood boards? With her flushed cheeks and that guilty energy? I didn't say anything right then, but I started watching. Quietly. She'd leave the house claiming to go to client meetings, and come back smelling like cologne I didn't wear. Not always. Just enough to notice. Enough to sting. Then she started getting defensive. Over nothing. If I asked about her day, "Why are you interrogating me?" If I suggested we plan a weekend away, "I'm too busy right now. Stop trying to control me." I felt like I was losing her in slow motion, like watching someone walk into the fog and hoping they'd turn around. I started writing things down. Times, dates, what she said versus what I saw. Not out of spite, just, I don't know, to hold on to my own sanity, to prove to myself I wasn't going crazy. But the thing that finally cracked everything wide open wasn't anything she said or did directly. It was an envelope. No name. Just tucked into the side pocket of her bag while she was in the shower. I wasn't even looking for anything that night. I was just grabbing laundry off the floor, and it slid out like it wanted to be found. Inside, a handwritten note, and a photo. Her, sitting at a cafe, holding hands with a guy I didn't recognize. But he looked familiar. Then it hit me, he worked in the same co-working space she sometimes used. The note read, "Last night was amazing. Can't wait for the next one. He'll never know. Love you." I just stood there, felt like my heart slowed down, then sped up, then slammed into my ribs. I didn't say anything that night. I folded the note back up, put it exactly where I found it, and walked into the hallway like a ghost. Watched her dry her hair, smile at herself in the mirror, hum like everything was fine. Everything wasn't fine, but I needed to hear it from her. So I waited. 2 days after I found that envelope, I asked her to have lunch with me. Nothing dramatic. I just told her I missed her and wanted to talk. She hesitated, checked her phone like she was expecting a message, then gave me a forced smile. "Sure, I've got an hour." We met at a quiet little place we used to go to before the kids. She wore perfume she hadn't touched in years. Said it made her feel refreshed. I didn't bring up the note right away. We made small talk. Kids, groceries, weekend plans. But it felt like talking to a coworker about the weather, hollow, rehearsed. When the food came, I waited until she took a bite. Then I said, "I know." She paused, fork halfway to her mouth. "Know what?" "The note," I said. "The guy from the co-working space. The late nights. I know what's going on." She set her fork down gently, as if careful not to break the illusion too fast. "Well, I guess that saves me from having to explain," she said, completely calm.
No apology. No guilt.
Just cold practicality. I felt like I was looking at a stranger. How long? I asked, not even sure I wanted the answer. She tilted her head, thought about it. Does it matter? I didn't answer. I just looked at her, waiting, hoping she'd blink, flinch, show something human. But instead, she leaned in a little and said, voice cool and steady, listen to me. If you file for divorce, I'll leave you without a penny. You'll have to pay not only for the divorce itself, but also alimony and child support. You'll also lose custody rights over the children. So I'll keep doing what I'm doing with him, and you'll keep paying for it. It didn't sound like a threat. It sounded like a plan she'd already run through 100 times in her head. Like a script. I sat there, trying to find the words. My heart was pounding, but I kept my face still. Do you really think I'll tolerate and support you in that kind of life? I asked. She smiled. Not kindly. You have no other choice, she said. That moment right there, it was like something cracked open inside me. Not just anger. Not even heartbreak. Clarity. I realized she didn't love me. Maybe hadn't for a long time. And more than that, she didn't respect me. She saw me as a safety net. An ATM. A fool who wouldn't fight back. She had no idea who she was talking to. And that's when something shifted in me. Quietly, I decided right then to play along. For now. Smile. Nod. Pretend to be defeated. But behind the scenes, I was done being the quiet, dependable one who kept everything running while she played pretend in someone else's world. She thought she'd boxed me in. She had no idea I'd already started drawing the exit map. After that lunch, I went home like nothing happened. I kissed the kids goodnight, helped with homework, took out the trash. Same routine, same rhythm. But inside, everything had changed. She thought I'd been broken, that I'd crawl back into the role she'd written for me, provider, doormat, invisible man. But what she didn't realize is, silence doesn't always mean surrender. Sometimes it means strategy. I started gathering everything. Not in some big dramatic way, just quietly. Copies of bank statements. Screenshots of texts she forgot to delete from the cloud. Photos of the note, the envelope, the late-night call logs that didn't add up. All time-stamped, neatly organized in a folder only I could access. I met with a lawyer. A calm, experienced woman who listened without judgment. I told her everything. Showed her the photos. She didn't react much. Just nodded, took notes and said, "You're not the first. You won't be the last. But you're doing the right thing by planning." We discussed custody, finances, documentation. Everything my wife assumed I wouldn't know how to handle. Turns out, family courts don't just look at income. They look at stability, presence, history of caregiving. And I had years of school pickups, packed lunches, and bedtime stories on my side. I wasn't the one sneaking around. I wasn't the one treating marriage like a backup plan. So I played my role a little longer. I let her think I was retreating. Let her keep smiling at her phone when she thought I wasn't looking. Let her stay out late meeting clients. Let her assume I'd given up. She even started making bold little comments. Things like, "Maybe it's better this way. You get to focus on your work, and I get to feel alive again." I nodded, smiled, said, "Whatever makes you happy." But inside I was counting down. Then, 2 weeks later, something happened that pushed everything forward faster than I expected. She came home one evening and casually mentioned she was thinking of taking the kids on a short trip with him. "Just a weekend," she said. "They'll love the beach." I didn't even flinch. Just said, "Sounds nice." That night, once she fell asleep, I quietly moved a copy of the custody agreement draft into place. I scheduled the final meeting with my lawyer. Set the plan in motion. She thought I had no choice. She was about to learn what quiet planning really looked like. I waited until the right moment. The timing had to be perfect. Not for drama, not for revenge. For protection. For the kids. For my own future. The day started like any other. She had her gym bag over her shoulder, only she hadn't actually been to the gym in weeks. Said she had a morning meeting with a new client. She wore that necklace she always claims is just a gift from a friend. I didn't ask questions. Just kissed our daughter on the forehead. Handed my son his backpack and waved her off like nothing was different. She smiled on her way out, confident, relaxed. By noon, the papers were filed. Temporary custody request? Submitted. Documentation? Attached. Her client meetings? Backed up with calendar records and location pings she never thought to turn off. It wasn't about punishing her. It was about protecting what mattered. And making it crystal clear, I wasn't going to be steamrolled into silence. That evening, she came home humming, light on her feet, probably had no idea anything had changed, until she saw the envelope on the kitchen counter. Her name on it. No return address, just the seal from my lawyer's office. She picked it up slowly, looked over at me. "What's this?" I didn't answer. I was setting the table. She opened it. Her face changed in slow motion. First confusion, then disbelief, then a flash of something else. Not guilt, not fear, just irritation. "You actually went through with it?" she said, almost like I'd broken some unspoken rule. "I told you I wouldn't support that lifestyle," I said, not even looking at her. She stood there in silence, holding the papers like they might melt in her hands. "You're making a mistake," she finally said.
No, Irraplia.
"I made the mistake of thinking you'd stop, that you'd care, that we were fixable." She crossed her arms, defensive. "You'll regret this. You won't get full custody, and you'll still be paying." I turned and looked her straight in the eye, calm, steady. "I'm not trying to destroy you. I'm trying to protect our kids from growing up around this version of you. And I won't let you weaponize the system against me." For the first time, she didn't have a comeback. Later that night, I heard her on the phone, whispering, panicked, probably calling him, or someone else. I didn't care. The kids were asleep, peacefully, safely. That's all I needed in that moment. She thought I had no choice, but she was wrong. I just needed time. The next few days were quiet, but not in the peaceful way. More like the tension right before a storm rolls in. She stopped humming, stopped leaving so freely. Her phone was still glued to her hand, but now she was checking over her shoulder more often, lowering her voice, walking into other rooms to talk. The confidence she used to wear like armor, it was slipping. Fast. She tried to act like the papers were just a bluff. "I spoke to someone," she said one morning, arms crossed while I made breakfast. "They said this won't hold. You're overplaying your hand." I didn't respond, just handed our daughter a spoon and sat beside our son, helping him with his cereal. The kids didn't know what was going on, and I wanted to keep it that way, for now. That seemed to irritate her more than anything. "You think being quiet makes you strong?" she said behind me. "You think this changes anything?" I looked at her then, calmly.
No.
"I think it reveals everything." And it did. The more she tried to spin things, calling her sister to say I was overreacting, telling friends I was being manipulated by a lawyer, the more people started stepping back. No one jumped in to defend her like she expected. I think even her inner circle could sense something wasn't right. Maybe they'd seen signs I hadn't. Or maybe they were tired of the mask too. And the guy, the one from the co-working space, he ghosted. A week after the papers were filed, she asked me, casually, like she was commenting on the weather, if I knew someone had called his office asking questions about ethics, workplace conduct, conflicts of interest. I just shrugged. Must be a coincidence. She didn't push. She knew. And maybe for the first time, she realized I wasn't the man she thought she could control. I wasn't yelling, or threatening, or spiraling. I was calm, focused, unshakable. She used to think that made me weak. Turns out that's exactly what made me dangerous. The kids stayed with me more and more. She didn't fight it. Not yet. I think part of her was waiting for things to go back to normal. Waiting for me to cave or apologize or second-guess myself. But I'd already made my choice. I wasn't out for revenge. I was out for peace. And the more distance I created, the more I saw clearly. She didn't just cheat on me with another man. She cheated on the life we built. She cheated on the trust, on the family, on the quiet love that held everything together. And now she had to sit in the silence she created. About 10 days after I filed, she finally cracked. I came home from the grocery store, kids in the back seat talking about some project at school. She was waiting on the porch, arms folded, eyes red like she'd either been crying or trying not to. "Can we talk?" she asked, not looking at me. I told the kids to take the bags inside. They ran off, thankfully oblivious. She stood there for a few seconds, quiet, like she wasn't sure where to start. Then, finally, "I didn't think you'd actually go through with it. I didn't say anything. I thought you'd get mad, yell, maybe leave for a night, cool off. But this." She motioned toward the front door, the house, the driveway, like everything was suddenly foreign to her. "This is permanent." I nodded once. "It is. I never wanted to lose the kids." "You didn't lose them," I said. "You just haven't been showing up for them. There's a difference." She swallowed hard. For the first time in weeks, I saw something real in her expression. Regret, maybe, or just fear. Hard to tell. "I messed up," she whispered. I waited. I thought I could fix it before it went too far. That you'd forgive me if I just explained. I looked at her carefully. "You didn't try to explain. You warned me, threatened me. You said I had no choice." Her face twisted at that. "I didn't mean it like that." "Yes," I said calmly. "You did. And that's the part one can't forget." We stood there in silence, the wind tugging at the edge of her sleeve. "You're really not turning back?" she asked. I shook my head slowly. "I already did. I turned back 100 times. But you were always walking the other way." She didn't respond. She just nodded. Once, like something inside her had settled. Maybe it hit her in that moment that the power she thought she had was gone. That night, I noticed she didn't sleep in the bedroom. She stayed on the couch, curled up with a blanket she never used. Didn't eat much. Didn't speak much. The next day, she packed a few things and said she needed space to think. I let her go.
No shouting. No guilt tripping.
Just a quiet goodbye. The kids didn't ask many questions. I kept things simple. Mom's taking a little time away. That was enough for now. Inside, I felt the strangest mix of relief and heartbreak. I wasn't happy about any of it, but I was finally breathing again. Like I'd been underwater for years and didn't even know how deep I'd sunk. This wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about reclaiming who I was before I let someone else define my worth. In the weeks that followed, something shifted in the house. It wasn't louder. It wasn't happier. But it was real. The tension was gone. No more whispered phone calls in the hallway. No more forced smiles at dinner. Just me and the kids, figuring out a new rhythm. Mornings were hectic but honest. Evenings were quiet but peaceful. I started cooking more badly at first and they helped. We made a mess, laughed more. It wasn't perfect, but it was ours. She stayed away. There were a few short texts about logistics, pickup times, school events. Always cold, formal. No small talk. No attempts to mend. Part of me kept waiting for a last-minute twist. Some grand gesture, some emotional apology. But it never came. Instead, about a month after she moved out, I got a call from my lawyer. "She's agreed to the terms," she said. "Custody, financials, everything you requested." I didn't speak for a second. I just sat there, staring out the window while my son was sprawled on the floor doing math homework. "She's not contesting anything?" I finally asked. "No," the lawyer replied. "It looks like she's walking away." I hung up and just sat in it. It wasn't victory. Not really. It wasn't satisfying the way I thought it might be. There was no big celebration, no moment of triumph. But it was closure. And that, I'd learned, was more valuable than any apology she might have given. She used to say I had no choice, that I'd be trapped, paying for her life while she lived it with someone else. That she'd take the kids, the money, the house, and I'd be left with nothing. But here I was, still standing, still whole. And she was the one walking away empty-handed. Not because I ruined her. Not because I fought dirty. But because I chose peace. Because I didn't let her bitterness turn into mine. My kids, they're okay. They ask about her sometimes, and I never speak badly about her. They'll form their own opinions in time. As for me, I've started to rebuild. Not with someone new. Not yet. Just with myself. With quiet mornings. With real conversations. With the kind of peace that doesn't need permission. She thought I had no other choice. But I did. And I made it. It's been several months now. The divorce is finalized. The house is quieter, but not hollow. There are still nights when the silence is loud, when I wonder if I could have seen things sooner, or done something different to stop it all from unraveling. But then I remember, I didn't cause this. I didn't break our home. I didn't lie. I didn't walk away while pretending to stay. I was there, even when she wasn't. And for a long time I thought that made me weak. That loving someone who stopped loving me was some kind of failure on my part. But I see it differently now. Staying loyal even when things get hard, that's not weakness. That's integrity. And walking away finally when enough is enough. That's strength. Quiet, slow-burning strength. A few days ago, she texted me a photo of the kids from a visit. They were smiling, covered in sand from a park near her new place. She added a short line beneath the picture. "You're doing a good job with them." It was the first thing she'd said to me in months that felt sincere. I didn't reply, not out of spite, just, there was nothing else to say. She made her choices. I made mine, and I'm still standing. If you're reading this and you're in that fog, questioning your gut, wondering if it's worth it to speak up, afraid of what happens if you do, let me say this, you always have a choice. Even if they try to convince you otherwise, you can protect your peace. You can choose dignity. You can walk away from someone who stopped choosing you. And when you finally do, it won't feel like fireworks. It'll feel like breathing, like quiet mornings that don't hurt, like sleep that isn't interrupted by doubt, like watching your kids laugh and realizing you're giving them something better now. She thought I had no other choice. But the truth is, walking away wasn't the end. It was the beginning.